Bruce Lee stood in front of a thick wooden board. His students watched, expecting him to smash through it with raw power. Instead, he did something that seemed impossible. He barely moved his fist, yet the board exploded into pieces. "How?" his students asked. Bruce Lee smiled and said, "You're asking the wrong question. The question isn't how to break the board. The question is, what board are you not breaking in your life?" Welcome back to Be Water Philosophy. We've explored Bruce Lee's teachings on flowing like water, focusing energy, conquering inner enemies, emptying your cup, transforming through challenges, and finding power in rest. Today, we're examining one of his most famous demonstrations, board breaking. But this isn't about physical strength. It's about the moment when your mind stops lying to you about what's possible. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to break through the invisible barriers holding you back. Early 1960s, Oakland, California. Bruce Lee had just started teaching martial arts to American students. He wanted to demonstrate a principle, so he set up a wooden board, 1 inch thick, suspended between 2 supports. He asked for a volunteer. A large, muscular student stepped forward, confident. The student drew back his fist and struck the board with everything he had. The board didn't break. The student's hand hurt. He tried again. Same result. After 3 attempts, frustrated and embarrassed, he stepped back. Bruce Lee, who weighed 135 pounds and looked small next to this student, stepped forward. He positioned himself in front of the board. But here's what was different. He didn't look at the board. His eyes focused on a point 6 inches beyond it. His hand moved forward with what looked like minimal force. The board split cleanly in half. The students were amazed. "How did you do that?" they asked. "You barely hit it, and it broke." He hit it much harder, and nothing happened. Bruce Lee's answer changed how they understood not just martial arts, but reality itself. "He was trying to break the board," Bruce Lee explained. "I wasn't. I was reaching through the board to the point beyond it. The board just happened to be in the way." This wasn't mysticism. This was psychology. The muscular student had created an invisible barrier in his mind. The board became solid, immovable, impossible, so his body held back at the moment of impact, protecting itself from the impossible task. Bruce Lee had no such barrier. In his mind, the board didn't exist. Only the target beyond it existed, so his body committed fully, and the board had no choice but to give way. Here's what Bruce Lee understood that most people never grasp. The physical board isn't what stops you. The mental board is. Every time that student looked at the board and thought, "I need to break this," he was actually reinforcing its solidity in his mind. The board became harder with each thought about breaking it. Bruce Lee eliminated the board from the equation entirely. He replaced break the board with reach the target. One is a confrontation with resistance. The other is simply movement toward a goal. This is the principle Bruce Lee called emotional content. What you focus on determines what becomes real for you. Think about your own life. What's your unbreakable board? Maybe it's starting that business. You see all the obstacles, all the reasons it won't work, all the ways you might fail. The business becomes a board you have to break. Or maybe it's having a difficult conversation. You see the conflict, the awkwardness, the potential rejection. The conversation becomes a board you have to break. Or maybe it's changing your career, ending a relationship, moving to a new city, creating art, getting healthy. Whatever it is, you're standing in front of it thinking, "I need to break through this." And that very thought is making it unbreakable. Bruce Lee taught his students to stop seeing boards and start seeing targets. Stop focusing on the obstacle and start focusing on the destination beyond it. But there's a deeper layer to this. Bruce Lee discovered something that modern neuroscience has now confirmed. Your brain doesn't distinguish between a physical barrier and a mental one. To your nervous system, they're the same thing. When you tell yourself, "I can't do this," your brain creates the same biochemical response as if you just slammed into a physical wall. Your muscles tense, your breath shortens, your body prepares to either fight or flee from an impossible situation. But when you focus on the target beyond the obstacle, your brain creates a completely different response. It releases different chemicals, activates different neural pathways, and actually increases your physical and mental capabilities. Bruce Lee had experienced this directly. Before he learned this principle, he would sometimes fail at breaking boards. not because he lacked strength, but because he approached them with the thought, "I hope I can break this." That hope carried doubt, and doubt created the mental barrier that made the physical barrier real. Bruce Lee wasn't just a martial artist. He studied physics, anatomy, and psychology. He understood that board breaking wasn't about force. It was about focus and follow-through. The students who failed weren't too weak. They were stopping their punch at the moment of contact. Their subconscious mind, protecting them from perceived failure, would hold back a fraction of a second before impact. That hesitation was enough to prevent the break. Bruce Lee's technique was to aim beyond the board. His mind had already reached the target behind the board before his hand started moving, so there was no moment of hesitation, no holding back. His body had permission to commit fully because his mind wasn't focused on an obstacle. It was focused on a destination. This is why Bruce Lee could teach students to break boards in a single session, not by making them stronger, but by changing where they aimed their focus. He would tell them, "Don't think about the board. Think about your fist emerging from the other side. See it already there. Now just move your hand to where your mind already is." And they would break through. This principle extends far beyond martial arts. Consider athletes who choke under pressure. What's happening? They're focusing on the obstacle, the pressure, the stakes, the possibility of failure. The game becomes an unbreakable board. Elite athletes train themselves to focus beyond the obstacle. A basketball player doesn't think, "Don't miss this shot." They visualize the ball already through the hoop and simply execute the movement to that predetermined destination. Writers who suffer from writer's block are focusing on the obstacle, the blank page, the difficulty of writing, the judgment of readers. Writers who produce consistently focus beyond it, on the story they want to tell, the idea they want to share, the impact they want to create. The obstacle becomes invisible when your focus is on the target beyond it. Let's get practical. What boards are you not breaking in your life? The career board. Maybe you've been in the same job for years, knowing you're capable of more, but the thought of change feels overwhelming. The resume, the interviews, the risk, the uncertainty, these become a board you can't break. Bruce Lee's principle, stop focusing on leaving this job. Start focusing on being in my ideal role. Where is that role? What does that life look like? Aim for that. The current job is just in the way. The relationship board. Maybe there's a conversation you need to have, ending a relationship, setting a boundary, expressing your needs. But the board seems unbreakable. The confrontation, the emotions, the potential consequences. Bruce Lee's principle, stop focusing on having this difficult conversation. Start focusing on living an honest relationship. What does that look like? How does that feel? Aim for that. The difficult conversation is just the path to get there. The creation board. Maybe you want to write, make music, start a business, create something, but the board stops you. Lack of experience, potential criticism, fear of failure, not being good enough yet. Bruce Lee's principle, stop focusing on becoming good enough to create. Start focusing on the thing I want to create existing in the world. See it already done. Now just move through the steps to get there. Your current skill level is just in the way. It will develop as you move. The health board. Maybe you want to transform your health, but the board seems massive. Changing habits, losing weight, building fitness. The effort seems impossible. Bruce Lee's principle, stop focusing on losing 50 pounds or getting fit. Start focusing on being a person who moves joyfully and eats well. What does that person do today? Just do that. The transformation is just in the way of becoming who you already are. Here's the practice Bruce Lee taught. Step 1. Identify your board. What are you not doing because it seems too hard, too risky, too impossible? Step 2. Stop looking at the board. Seriously. Stop analyzing the obstacle. Stop listing all the reasons it's difficult. Stop rehearsing failure. You're making it more solid with each thought. Step 3. Find the target beyond. Not break through this obstacle, but arrive at this destination. What's on the other side? What does life look like after you've moved through this? Focus there. Step 4. See yourself already there. This is the key. Bruce Lee's hand was already beyond the board before it started moving. Your mind needs to be in the destination before your body begins the journey. Step 5. Move. Not tentatively, not hopefully, not trying. Just move toward where your mind already is. The obstacle will get out of the way because you're not giving it solidity by focusing on it. But here's what Bruce Lee understood at the deepest level. There are no boards. Every unbreakable board in your life is a story you're telling yourself about why something can't be done. It's not the thing itself that stops you. It's your belief about the thing. The board exists in your mind before it exists in reality. And once it exists in your mind as unbreakable, it becomes unbreakable in reality because you approach it with hesitation, doubt, and held-back force. Bruce Lee wrote, "The consciousness of self is the greatest hindrance to the proper execution of all physical action." What did he mean? When you're conscious of yourself trying to break a board, you create separation. There's you, and there's the board, and there's the attempt to break it. Three separate things, full of potential failure. But when you're simply reaching for a target, there's only one thing: movement. No separation, no attempt, no potential failure. Just action. This is the martial arts concept of no mind, not emptiness, but total presence without self-consciousness. The board breaker who thinks about breaking disappears. Only the movement toward the target remains. In your life, the same principle applies. When you're trying to change careers, start a business, have that conversation, you create separation. There's you. And there's the scary thing. And there's the attempt, full of potential failure. But when you're simply moving toward your target destination, there's only movement. The scary thing is just scenery along the way. This week, I want you to choose one board, just one thing you've been avoiding because it seems too hard or too risky. Don't try to break it. Instead, identify the target beyond it. What's on the other side? Where are you going? Focus there. Then take one action, just one, as if the board doesn't exist, not to break through, but simply to move toward your target. Maybe it's sending one email, making one phone call, writing one page, having 1 minute of that conversation. Doesn't matter how small. What matters is that you're moving toward the target, not confronting the obstacle. Bruce Lee could break boards because he had done this thousands of times in small ways. He had trained his mind to see through obstacles to destinations. You're beginning that training now. Remember, the board isn't what stops you. Your belief about the board is what stops you. Change your focus, and the board becomes transparent. In the comments, tell me, what's one board you're going to stop looking at this week? What's the target beyond it? Sharing this makes it real. If this exploration of Bruce Lee's board-breaking philosophy resonated with you, subscribe and hit that notification bell. Next week, we're exploring another revolutionary concept from Bruce Lee. Until then, remember, there are no unbreakable boards. There are only targets you haven't aimed for yet. Stop trying to break through. Start reaching beyond. The obstacles will take care of themselves.